Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. What a week it has been. I have just gotten back from Tamworth Country Music Festival, which was incredible. And for what feels like the first time in a very long while, I was able to switch off. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Just being able to focus on my wife and get involved in the country music scene, which there were so many incredibly nice people. I got to catch up with Joey, who's been a member of our academy for a long while. Caught up for a coffee and then did a session, which absolutely destroyed my core. It's still sore right now, but it was awesome fun. And I think one of the coolest things of that is, you see people on Zoom calls and chat with them in the group and over WhatsApp and all of that. And then when you actually get the opportunity to meet in person, it's like you've known each other forever. It was awesome. So Joey, thanks for having me in Tamworth, mate. It was great fun. So what we want to talk about today, or what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, is how to be a nicer person. It's something that I've been thinking about over the last 3 days, and I'll give you some context around why. But what I want to cover, so you can find out whether this podcast is going to be a good investment of your time or not, just quickly, is going to be how do you know if you're a nice person, 4 steps to be a nicer person, signs that you're a nice person, and benefits of being a nice person. There's always got to be a benefit. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be covering. If you don't feel there's any value in that, I would recommend you investing your time somewhere that's going to add more value to your day and where you're moving with your goals. And I know that means you're not going to be listening to this today, but hopefully when you do see episodes that I post, which means you've got to subscribe, you will tune into the ones that add value to you and where you're at and what you're working towards. And if you want to help with that, shoot me some DMs with things that are going on in your life, things that you're curious about, potential guests that you would love for me to invite onto the show, and hopefully we can make all of that happen, which would be awesome. But on Monday, I decided to shake it up a little bit in the Facebook group and post a question, and I threw a side to it. And when I say I threw a side to it, I took a side. And I've had the Facebook group for 5 years now. And this particular post had the most interaction out of any post I've ever posted. And for a long number of years, I've been learning marketing. I've disagreed with a lot of marketing. I've seen people who implement those marketing strategies do very well, but I've sort of sat back and said, sure, there's got to be a different way to do this. But what I tested, and I tested it really well, and I even tested it the day before, was that the moment that I took a side with something, it sparked a lot of emotion. It got people talking and sharing their experiences, sharing their perspectives and opinions, which I loved. But there was also a few conversations that I was having which made me question myself and am I a nice person? Because I chose to side with, I obviously took a side. Now, full disclosure, the post, if you want to go have a look at it, I couldn't give a flying fuck. It doesn't affect my life in any way, but the marketing strategy has me very curious, and it's very, very interesting to see that, or obviously as you start looking into more around the world, how the world works, how marketing works, how media controls things, you can put it into play in your own life and get real life feedback. And it was fascinating to do that. And what I saw was obviously emotion creates motion, right? It gets people engaging, it gets people interacting. But from the conversations that followed, there were moments where I felt like I needed to justify my reasoning, like pretty much like I'm doing right now. There was, and I'm not coming from a place of justification, I'm coming from a place of this is very fascinating and I want to share it with you guys because there will be more of it, mark my words. And then there was also the point of, am I a nice person because I seem to have upset some people? And I've thought about this for probably 3 days. I've read a lot about it. I've tried to make sense of it all. And it really questioned my integrity because, as I mentioned, I've seen these marketing strategies deployed multiple times. It never really sat well with me. And I feel like it never really sat well with me because it did create division. It sparked emotion. And I believe when people are in an emotional state, they're not speaking logically. And they may say or feel things that may not be true to the conversation. However, it does do the flip side of that. It does get that conversation happening and you're going to find sort of who's for and against certain causes. Okay, which can be interesting, right, to see where people stand. And it led on to conversations around judgment and being judgmental, or having judgmental behavior, which then also put me down another rabbit hole, a rabbit warren around is it okay to judge? Is there a place for judgment? And I'm going to unpack that conversation in a podcast, hopefully in the next couple of episodes with George. We were talking about it today, and I was like, let's podcast this because I don't think it's as simple as a black and white answer. I think it's got to be very situational, and the context has to be right. Because think about it like this: if there was a pedophile living next door, or a convicted pedophile living next door, and you had a young family, and the pedophile said, "Hey, do you mind? I'm more than happy to babysit your kids." You would probably have judgment, and rightly so, right? That judgment, or being able to judge prior history. And once again, I completely understand this is where the depth to the conversation comes in. Understand people can grow, change, and develop. And I'm not using this for this context. I'm just saying that regardless. But you're probably going to be fair to say, fuck no. No way. No chance in that situation. And your judgment helps you form that decision. So in that situation, for me, making a judgment is very important. However, the flip side of that, and I'm not going to go too much into detail with this, we'll pull this apart with George in the next couple of days, next couple of episodes, is, to judge people for how they think, how they act and behave, if it doesn't directly affect you, if you don't have to, like I said, make decisions around it, then for what purpose are you doing it? That would be my next question. Why do you feel the need to judge? You're only shifting your focus probably to somewhere that it doesn't need to be, right? And the judgment, everyone has the right to make their own judgment around what they feel is going to work well in their life, what they don't, who they want to spend time around, where they want, even you guys would judge this podcast, whether you feel it's worth your time or whether you don't. And if you're still here, thank you so much. But it got me thinking, right? And that sort of led me to this question around, am I a nice person? And I believe I am. And what I went on down the rabbit warren was sort of thinking more about that because, I think about this as people in my life that I believe are confident, athletic, academic, theatrical, kind, compassionate, empathetic. They all have adjectives to describe my experiences with them, right? And some people may be sitting in a situation where you feel like you're not a nice person, or you may be surrounded by not nice people. But it's not that hard to become one, or it's not that hard to sort of even disassociate yourself from the hard people. So here's a few things that you can really think about that will help you, in my opinion, become a nice person. And you may be sitting there going, wow, Or you may go, duh, I understand that, and I hope you're leaning into that. But there's going to be obviously a heap more, and I don't want to talk too much to them, but these are just a few that I've written down here. And the first one is being honest. Right? I think it's so important to stay true to yourself and your values. And this is why one of the most important things in life is understanding what you value and making sure that you can still express yourself nicely while being honest. So many of us don't feel we can be our authentic self. We don't feel like we can show up and share our opinions because we're worried about being judged. We're worried about upsetting others. We're worried about not saying the wrong things or not fitting in, okay, which are all normal and are all warranted, right? You're not going to fit in with everyone. People will judge you. People will have differing opinions with you. But if you're being honest to yourself, at least you can go to bed at night, putting your head on the pillow to go, you know what, I was the best version of myself and I stood up for what I believed in. I projected what I believed in today. And as you know, my opinion, as long as you're not being an absolute cunt to people, then that's completely fine. Like, because as I mentioned, that we need to have this view that we need to seek to understand in order to be understood. And as a result of that, we need to be empathetic and be able to control ourselves emotionally to be able to facilitate that conversation. If someone says something that they, is a differing opinion to you and you blow up, the last thing they're going to want to do is listen to your opinion. They're going to get emotionally charged as well. And when you've got two emotionally charged people, man, it's like watching fireworks go and you don't get anywhere. You just get tired, right? It becomes very, very tiring. Secondly, something that you can do to become a nicer person, be open-minded. Life is full of change. So when you're confronted with ideas or situations or even people that are unfamiliar or have different values and beliefs and ways of living to you, it can make negative emotions arise. It can make limiting beliefs pop up. Okay? But going back to what I mentioned a moment ago, it's that seek to understand, why do they believe this is the right thing? Why do they enjoy doing that? Find out, get curious, ask questions, because you might literally learn something that changes your life. You might learn something that changes a belief that you've held on to deeply for years. And that might be the one belief that you needed to change in order to, create the life that you wanted to create, to be the father that you wanted to be. So it's an essential quality for learning and also absorbing information without judgment. There are so many things. And look, there are situations where I judge and I am aware that I'm judging and I'm going, fuck, man, pull your head in here. What can you learn? And after I've shifted my perspective and my attitude, I then go into the conversation. I do learn. I walk away going, I can't believe my first thought was that. I'm so grateful that I gave the time to be open-minded, to connect and learn what I've now just learned. Okay, so it's much easier to be nice when you're comfortable within yourself and in your environment. So if, I say that I live in the bubble, and it's only been a recent conversation that I've been having with my wife and a couple of friends, is like, I feel like I need to test myself. I need to get outside of this bubble, the environment that I feel comfortable with, get away from all the people that I feel comfortable with and challenge myself, because life is about challenge. In my opinion, I love living a life that's full of challenges, as much as it can be tiring, but it forces you to bring the best. It forces you to show up with your A game. And so, like I was saying, it's so much easier to be nice when you're in that comfort zone. So if you feel like, either side of the coin there, I'm not saying you need to move out of your comfort zone. I'm saying if you feel you want to have an opportunity to be nicer, find a bit of certainty, find a bit of security in your environment and in the people that you spend time around, and also within yourself. What does that look like to be kind to yourself, to love yourself, and to be certain within yourself? How can you create that? Right? And it all comes back to being open-minded. The next one, look for ways to be helpful. This sort of jotted down off the back of being in Tamworth, and while I didn't focus too much on the Man That Can project, I focused a lot on helping my wife with, I was driving her around, getting the guitar ready, networking, going to shows, all of that sort of stuff. And I was really focusing on ways that I could be helpful so that it would minimize her stress and maximize her having a positive experience in that space. And sometimes it was small things like making breakfast or grabbing a coffee. Other times it was more substantial things like having to drive around all the place, do certain things, set up guitars, all that sort of stuff. So find ways to be helpful because people really appreciate that. And like I said, it's often the smaller things that, are the most appreciated. So tomorrow morning, get up, make yourself a coffee, and you might buy someone a coffee at a local coffee shop, or if you've got a partner at home or someone, do something nice for them. Make them a coffee or write them a little cheeky note and leave it on the kitchen counter. But you'll feel heaps nicer and people will also appreciate that. The final one, practice gratitude. This is game-changing for being a nicer person because when you're coming from a place of gratitude, thinking about the things that you're grateful for within your life, research suggests that gratitude can have many health benefits, right, including reducing stress and increasing happiness. So focusing on those positive thoughts, right, and if you're like me and it's not always at the forefront of your mind, having a routine or a journal, for example, where it asks you for 1 to 3 or maybe even more things that you're grateful for is helping you recondition yourself to look for those things that you've got now, because quite often we're not focused on what we have, we're focused on what we don't have, and it's not a fun place to live. It's hard to be nice when you're so fucking focused on what you don't have, right? So start conditioning yourself to think differently, okay? And here's the thing, how do you define nice? Why? What does it really mean to be nice? And how do you know if you're a nice person? Literally questions I was like, fuck, where do I fit into this? Because I think I'm nice, but how do people perceive me? And there are always going to be some characteristics, right? And you can make your own up. There's lists, you can Google them that are going to help you with that, right? But it might be things from characteristics from empathy, right? Kindness, politeness, responsibility, which is one that I'm big on, honesty, helpfulness, generosity might be things that people define as nice, right? And that definition is going to go from person to person, okay? And you may even say that person's nice, but the reason why the two people that you've just identified as nice, the reason why you feel they're nice may be for different things. As I mentioned, it could be because one is completely empathetic, the other person is completely thoughtful, okay? So understand that can change from person to person, which is a very, very, very cool thing. So I hope you're staying with me. We're nearly done. But how can you, identify some signs that you're a nice person? Firstly, people seem to enjoy your company. You give people genuine compliments. You listen to what other people have to say. You're kind to others. You're kind to yourself. Right? You're supportive of others. You take responsibility for your mistakes. Look, we all make mistakes. Hand up there, fucking 100%. So there's some things that you can sort of start using if you were like me this week. Sorry, my mouth is very dry. If you're like me and you're starting to go, am I a nice person? Do I want to be a nice person? What can I start looking for in order to create that? But some quick benefits of being nice: better mood, decreased stress, increased kindness are all things that are going to better improve your quality of life. So start thinking about that, Jensen. I know for myself 8 years ago, or, before I began my journey to, being the man that I wanted to be and really creating an identity around who I wanted to be, I didn't believe I was a nice person. I had characteristics that I couldn't probably identify at the time, but now I can. I didn't know what the steps were to improve that, and I gave you some earlier, so you can rewind back and listen to that. I didn't really have an idea in my head of what a nice person was. I had an idea of characteristics, and I think we can embody, multiple of those, and I think it's important too. And I didn't really understand the benefits of being nice. And actually, to sort of counter this before I leave you with it, there is a great book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. Now, it talks about being too nice and being a pushover and understanding how you can, going into that, being a pushover, setting boundaries within your life around expectations, how people can treat you, how you treat other people, and you can set standards that will meet those in order to live the quality of your life and uphold that and be true to who you are as an individual. So, gents, if you found that valuable, if you got some value from this, please take the time to leave a review, share it. But I hope you've taken away a few things or even just some different perspectives or tools or steps on how you can be a nicer person or how you can identify nicer people to spend more time around. But do something for me. Do one thing today, and listening to this podcast is exactly that is going to make you better for tomorrow. Appreciate you guys showing up for yourself, and I look forward to having a yarn or whispering in your ear on the next podcast. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.